Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. It was properly posted, and a scrivener's error on the agenda. It was posted Wednesday, May 17th. No problem otherwise. And is there a motion to approve the minutes of Thursday, April 20th?
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
4 through 32 are the consent docket items.
Move the consent docket for this individual consideration.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
33 is the transfer of general fund appropriations to the election board for salaries, benefits, to operation,
Move it.
to the reserve account.
Excuse me just a second. That's back to our reserve account. So those dollars were dollars that we had given the election board to pay for this election, and then since it didn't need all of them, so they're coming back to us. So that's unheard of. Thank you, election board.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
I did.
Okay.
And I second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
34 is a transfer of appropriations for election board in the amount of $28,500 from travel to operation.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And 35, also from the election board, from salaries and benefits, and travel to capital.
Move it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
36 is, general fund appropriations for District 3.
Move approval.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
37 for the court clerk.
Motion to move it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
38 for the county clerk.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
39 for facilities maintenance.
Motion. Move it.
And, Mr. Monroe called me this morning, Mr. Treasurer, and his father is in the heart hospital with, aneurysm that they are trying to address. And, he was still conscientious enough to call and say, I know we need to be present when we're having transfers, and to please explain why he was absent today. And so our thoughts and prayers are with the original Mr. Monroe.
Sure are.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Facility, maintenance, facilities management, is there a difference?
I'm sorry, I meant management.
We've already processed it, right?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Carry her.
That was
Take it to the heart, huh?
About that heart hospital.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, look, Keith Ford, priceless. Item 40 from the county engineer for cash. These are all cash fund appropriations transfers.
Move it, fine.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
41 is county purchasing.
Motion to move it. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, now, Danny, our monthly report.
Morning.
Morning.
There is a PowerPoint link on the agenda if you want to follow along on your tablet there. First page I want to look at for the monthly report is page 3. This is the general fund as of April 30th. To date, we have collected $82.2 million in revenue for the general fund. That's 101.5% of what we budgeted for the year. Comparing that to last year, we had collected 101% at the same time last year. We kind of track it. That's just a good gauge to see if we're on track with where we should normally be at this time of year, and we are. We had projected, when we built our budget for next year, we had projected $85 million for this year total. So we've got 2 more months to make up another $3 million. So I think we're on track there as well. Still on general fund, but turning over to page 5, comparing year-to-date this year to year-to-date last year. The box over on the right, you'll see the green row there. We have collected $2.6 million more than the same time last year. That's a 3.3% increase. And we had budgeted $2.6 million more than we did a year ago. So everything's right on track as far as revenue collections. Expenditures to date, Comparing, this year's budget to last year's budget, we've actually spent about $2.6 million less this year than we did a year ago. It's about a 4.4% decrease. Several departments that make up the decrease, but so far we spent a whole lot less than we did last year. So, switching over to Employee Benefits Fund, unless you had any more questions on General Fund.
Page what?
Page 11. All right. To date, at the end of April, we had a cash balance in Employee Benefits Fund, $853,000. Medical and prescription claims through the month of April, we are up $3.3 million over the same time last year. That's a 22% increase. Nothing new. I've updated you guys every month this year, and so nothing new there. Based on the actual numbers through April, just projecting out the last 2 months, you'll see the highlighted yellow column there. We estimate that we're going to end the year with a negative $544,000. There is an item on this agenda to transfer another $500,000 from reserve to employee benefits to help with that shortfall. We've got 2 months left. If claims average what they have been averaging, we might be all right, but if it just takes a couple weeks out of those last 8 weeks of high claims to where that would blow that number up a little more. So potentially we could need to move some more money out of reserve. Your guess is as good as mine at this point. Another $300,000 to $500,000 is possible, but obviously we track it every week. So we may come back to this board next month with another recommendation to move some more money out of reserve. The very next page is a graph I just wanted to bring to your attention. This is kind of a 10-year history of Employee Benefits Fund. That red line is total expenses for the plan. Back in 07-08, it was $14 million. We're projecting about $27.7 million this fiscal year. The blue line is what we bring into the plan, revenue-wise, and premiums from departments, from employees. You can see we're going to bring in about $17.2 million. That's quite a bit of gap. It's a $10 million gap from what we spend. The rest, how do we make up for it? Transfers from general fund, which is that bottom green line. You can see we're projecting this year that we're going to transfer about $9.9 million from general fund into employee benefits fund. 10 years ago, we transferred $1.3 million out of general fund. Only reason I bring that to your attention is that a transfer, more money is coming out of general fund every year via transfers. Part of that reason is, the premiums. The premiums aren't keeping pace with the total expenditures of the plan. Just kind of wanted to touch on that real quick. That's all I have on the whole report, unless you had any other questions today.
Move we receive the report.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. John?
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm going to touch on 2 items that are really important on the health plan to be aware of. Danny talks about health claims being up $3 million, and again, I'm going to speak on why that is. And I can point to 2 reasons why. The first reason why is this page right here you have in front of you, is we've had a lot more large dollar, high dollar claimants this year. If you can see, 8 more people have had claims $50,000 or more this fiscal year so far versus last fiscal year. So that's really what's driving our increase. Big claims and big claimants. I already told you that last month that we have the highest risk out there of any health plan, probably in Oklahoma. We have a lot of potential big cases. And how do we manage that risk? We're managing that risk really good outside of the inpatient hospital and under 100% benefits plans. We have really good quality providers, low cost. But most of these claims that are hitting us are hitting our regular health plan network, First Health. So I have some solutions, and we've talked about these solutions. On the second page, really focus in on prescription drugs. That's up 22%. So the 2 things that are driving our plan costs, it's pretty simple when I break it down. It's large dollar claimants and our prescription drug costs. Those are the 2 things. Now, the good news is, we have some solutions. Healthcare Highways was supposed to be on the agenda today. We're almost there. They made all the changes that the DA wants to their contract, so soon we'll have to have this on the agenda to approve that new network. But I looked at the claims register last week that we got, because we've had high dollar claim registers coming in week after week. And I'm like, how can out of 3,100 people, every week we have these big claims coming through? How can all these people be sick at once? So, long story short, I took the biggest claim out of our check register last week. It was a $320,000 claim. It was 11 days inpatient at a local hospital for a heart condition. They had some procedures done. They billed $320,000 to us, okay? Our current network, we have decent discounts, but out of that $320,000, we paid $260,000. Decent discount. So I took that claim and gave it to Healthcare Highways and said, why don't you reprice this? So if we're under Healthcare Highways, what would we have paid? We would have paid $122,000. So if you multiply that out with all those big claims coming through, when we switch over to Healthcare Highways, we're going to see a lot of savings. Even stop loss has told us that. There's going to be huge savings. So good things on the horizon. I wish we tried to switch over earlier. We didn't get it done, but that's a really good thing that's on the horizon that will go into effect 7/1 if we get it passed. And the next thing, again, that new CVS contract that we're going for with the agent, we're about there. It's a cut out the middleman. There's no middleman in our prescription plan anymore. We're paying lower cost on our prescriptions, really larger rebate checks we'll receive back. So those are the two solutions. It's simple. You know, what's driving our plan cost? Large claimants. How do we solve that? Healthcare Highways. That's how other plans in the metro are doing it, and there's a good example of that big claim. Now, the bad news is, just got notification for next week, is we have 2 preemies on our plan. Good news is they're doing okay, but bad news is we're going to have to fund about $450,000 next week or the next week on our plan because of their hospital costs. So if we're under Healthcare Highways, those costs would have been reduced about by half. So expect a big check register in the next couple of weeks that we're going to have to fund. It's directly related to that, some inpatient hospital costs. Any questions?
You said 2 premiums, right?
2 preemies, yes.
That's what I thought you said, okay.
Move to receive the report.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You wanna go ahead?
Thank you, John.
Okay.
Wanna go with our next item?
Yes, sir. The next item is our fiscal year 17-18 stop loss renewal. The good news is somebody quoted us. Our current carrier said we don't want to quote. So thankfully, Voya Financial, a big player in the market, came in and quoted us. Currently, we have a $250,000 deductible on everybody on the plan. So those 3,100 people, each of them has a $250,000 deductible. The county pays the first $250,000. Voya came back with some different deductible quotes, and the most feasible option is moving to a $300,000 deductible level because the premium difference is about $275,000. So, and the only reason they quoted us is because we're moving to the new Healthcare Highways network. They wouldn't have quoted us if we were with a regular network because what they see in the market, they say with Healthcare Highways, they're going to see less stop loss claims because somebody goes and has a $300,000 claim at the hospital, that's not going to hit their stop loss deductible with Healthcare Highways. So they're giving us a very good quote, and they expect us to have a better year. And with our current stop loss contract, something really important to note, you know, I tell you we have a lot of risk on our plan, so much risk. Our current carrier, when they renewed us this last year, they said instead of that $250,000 deductible on certain people, you have a lot of sick people, we're going to place a higher deductible. So on 16 people on our plan with our current quote, and our current carrier, they said they added $4.2 million of risk for the county. So you're going to have to cover that $4.2 million. That's our current contract. Now, Voya, they did medical underwriting, and instead of 16 people with a higher deductible, they came back with one person to the tune of $800,000. So I think we're lucky to have a quote, and they say they looked at our plan, they medically underwrite us, and they say good things are on the horizon. A lot of those big cases have fallen off, and they said if you go with that new health network with bigger discounts, a lot less cost. So what we're looking at, bottom line, is an increase of $275,000. It sounds like a lot, but in the scheme of things, I did a 9-year history on our stop loss below, and after 9 years, the county has received $3.9 million more than we paid for stop loss coverage. So stop loss is, of course, we all know is a great deal, and we're really lucky to have a quote this year. But with Healthcare Highways and Voya, we're locked into stop loss. Without them, we wouldn't have any stop losses next year. So I would recommend option 3, renewing with a 30% increase with Voya Financial.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes,
Lasers is mentioned here in parentheses.
correct.
What is lasers?
What a laser is typically us healthy people have a $250,000 deductible for stop loss. The county pays the first $250,000. Now a laser is an additional deductible, a deductible higher than the $250,000. So in our current stop loss contract, we have people with lasers or higher deductibles to the tune of $4.2 million. The county's responsible for the first $4.2 million. With our renewal, we go from $4.2 million of liability to $800,000 of liability. So the liability is way reduced. Really good news.
And that's just on the one.
And only on one person versus 16 people.
Thank you.
What happened to the 15?
Some of them
They
dropped.
got well?
Well, some of them dropped. Some of them dropped off the plan. Some of them went through the course of treatment. And then how Voya looks at our risk, they look at our network, provider network, and they say right now you have kind of decent discounts, but for these people with these conditions, their claims are going to be way less. So they're not going to hit that stop loss deductible. So that's how they rate our risk. They say, look at our network, and you're going to get bigger discounts. We don't see that much liability out there, which is good news for us.
Okay, next.
Okay. 45 is just a standard renewal agreement for our Medicare supplement agreement with Physicians Mutual. No changes. Same price locked in for next year. There's 341 retirees that have this service.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
46.
46 is a standard renewal agreement with personalized prevention for our HRA and wellness services. No changes.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And then 47 is just standard renewal agreement with health check screening. There are some changes, some cost decreases, and more items added. So it's a win for the county.
Motion to move. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And then 48 is for I Am Well.
Make the motion.
Sure.
Hold on.
While you're doing that, is I Am Well still looking for more people to be participants to lower our costs like you talked about when we very first got in it? Like I think it was the city of Edmond we were talking about, and they could have more branches. And is that still something they're exploring, or are they good now? Or
We have 3 branches through them now. We have the one on Reno, so we have a south branch. Of course, we have one downtown and the one by the hospital. But they're still adding clients every day, so there could be more locations.
By
Maybe
Mercy Hospital.
Out west, maybe out west.
By Mercy Hospital, correct?
Yes, correct, right behind the Heart Hospital.
I think they were quoting Sonic recently. Yeah, they're still out. They're looking for other.
And we're still getting really good utilization. I talked to some other clients, and they can't get their members to go, but we have great utilization, which is really good.
Okay, go ahead. Is there anybody wishing to register a no vote or
I haven't heard a
abstention?
no vote today.
Okay. Go ahead.
So did we finish item 48?
No. I think so.
You think what?
I'm 48 now.
Okay, well, I think we all voted, but we'll do it again. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, now I'm 48.
48 is just the standard renewal with I Am Well Health.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And then 50, we did not get it completed.
Wait a minute, 49.
49, sorry. Sageview, they do our annual actuarial study for our health plan to formulate the suggested premium rates, and that's a standard renewal.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now 50.
Now 50. Here's the big one. We tried to get this done in time. We didn't get the document back, but we really will need a special budget board meeting when this gets completed before the end of May, so we can roll this out in time.
So there's nothing to take
Nothing to
action on
approve.
today?
No, sir.
Move to strike 50.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Item 51 is discuss a financial update from the sheriff's office. And we have Mr. Scuda and Mr. Taylor here, whichever your pleasure.
Good morning. Last month I kind of gave you an update. The only thing that we're currently tracking very closely is the inmate cap overage for this current fiscal year. We've had some lengthy discussions with Armor in the last week as far as where that cap is trending to end up. Last month, the report that they gave us was a trend of around $250,000. In the month of April, we had very high in-hospitalization days. I don't remember the exact number. It was between 10 and 15 days of having someone in the hospital. That drove up their estimate of the overage. And right now, the most recent report they gave us was around the $500,000 mark of being over that cap. After lengthy conversations with them, they do believe that's going to drop below them. But until we have the next 30 days or so to kind of monitor what the hospitalization rate is and anything else that hopefully won't occur, that should drop down a little bit lower. But we're closely monitoring that. I know it's one of the items on the BET watch list at the moment.
Move the item.
Well, what are we just accepting your report?
Yeah, that's the item.
I'm more than happy to answer any questions
Move
you guys have on that.
to receive the report.
Okay.
And I second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Augie, you want to give us a Tyler, or Rob, sorry.
Good morning, everyone. We just returned from a Tyler Munis conference last week. We had 8 county employees that attended the conference. Approximately 64 different specific courses attended. My experience was my first Tyler conference, and particularly several of the courses were very, very beneficial to the county as a whole, I believe, as far as learning what's coming in the future. Some of the new releases Tyler has for the 2017 release is going to be programming much of their system in HTML5. And what this means for you is HTML5 is operating browser agnostic. So you can use Safari, Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, and it'll all actually work really well with your devices. So that's something we're looking forward to. We also had the ability to collaborate with several other counties across the United States, and we're currently collaborating with the sheriff on doing some Kronos integration with the Munis system, where instead of it being manual, it'll actually be integrated fully and automated. So we really got a lot of benefit out of the conference. Augie's out working in a district this morning. But I want to thank the board again, the BOCC, for approving us, and many of the other members of the county the ability to travel there and attend the conference.
Where was the conference?
San Antonio.
San Antonio.
Yes.
Not Godibo.
It was not Godibo, and the Mexican food was excellent.
Any questions?
Move to receive the report.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
I might comment, I'm glad you went to that conference. I always found when I was able to go to conferences, I learned so much, maybe not so much from the teaching and academics of the program, but the interaction with other people like me doing the same kind of work. So I'm glad you went.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it.
Cody, you want to give us the BET report?
Good morning.
Morning.
We have a few updates to the current BET watch list. When we met, the county clerk's office had requested to remove a couple of their items. Half of the Tyler Munis and salary and benefits, they had requested those to be removed. The general government arbitrage that was on there last time has been removed, and the sheriff's office requested the DOC contract loss of $1.6 million be removed from the watch list. The other change to the watch list, we are recommending transfer of $500,000 from general fund reserve to employee benefits. That's what Danny was alluding to earlier. I believe that's the next item on your agenda, item number 54. If you guys have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Move to receive the budget evaluation watch list. Item.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Item 54.
Move approval.
Second.
Is there any discussion on this? Aye. It is what it is. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item 55, the follow-up.
Move the item.
Is there a second?
$55 is what?
It's the follow-up to the previous item.
Yep.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
56 is to receive the department's estimate of needs. Anybody?
Anybody want to talk about it?
You want to take that on, Cody?
Item 56 is just receiving all of the department's estimate of needs that they presented. And that's kind of the launching off point that BET took in determining its recommendation for this board.
All of them have been, you have received all of them. You had all of them when you did your deliberations. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Move to receive it.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
57, discuss an action on regarding recommendation for the budget evaluation team.
Okay, like I said a second ago, we met, we did discuss all the estimate of needs. We met with each department, some of them multiple times, to get a clear picture of where they stand as far as a need standpoint. We do have a few recommendations that came out of our group. One of them is kind of an overarching, and I'll address that first. It kind of relates back to last year's recommendation and some confusion that occurred. Our recommendation is that this be treated as a line item recommendation. When I say line item, the five major ones: salaries, benefits, travel, capital, M&O. We looked at each of those sections quite deliberately and made recommendations. So that is a recommendation from the group. When we looked at some of the capital items, one of the items that a few departments had requested were phones. We do recognize there is a need for that, and the group thought that they would like this group to ask PBA if there's potential funding source for that. Other than that, I can get into the individual department recommendation if this board so pleases. Like I said, we looked at the estimate of needs and kind of started off with what was allocated this current fiscal year, and then looked at needs that maybe weren't needed, maybe some additional needs the next fiscal year, and had an adjustment both up and down in many departments, and there were several that remained consistent with their current budget year allocation. Some of the bigger items on there, on general government, you'll notice a decently substantial increase of $438,000. There were some pluses and some minuses there. The big thing is with the district attorney's ruling as it relates to OSU extension. If you notice down there, there's nothing in there for OSU extension, but it's going to be operated as a contract. The Board of County Commissioners will negotiate. So there's $450,000 put into the general government for a contract with OSU extension. So that's the biggest part of that change. The other big change on here was $803,376 for the sheriff's office. What we did, we looked at, this board had talked last year about funding detention 100% out of general fund. So what we did was we looked at Mr. Scuta's estimate, the sheriff's office estimate of needs. Mr. Scuta broke it out pretty well in depth and gave us a lot of information. The $803,000 increase consists of a few things. First of all, our recommendation is includes 100% salary and benefit allocation for all of the detention employees. It includes all of the salaries and benefits for 70% of the core services, folks that are over there that service the detention center, as well as 100% of the salaries and benefits for the court processing. That being a constitutional item that the DA's office had mentioned. That increase also includes a little over $500,000 for an increase in the inmate medical contract for this current fiscal year, a $250,000 increase in the inmate medical cap overage, and $50,000 of that is the inmate food increase. So I think it was like $515,000 of the $803 consists of those three particular items. Other than that, the assessor's office had an increase. That was to, they've got a new CAMA system coming online. They're going to need an additional employee to help manage what the individual is going to be managing. And Larry, if I mischaracterize, please correct me. But they need some help kind of backfilling once that goes live, and that should be fairly soon. There was also a transfer of an employee that's currently being paid out of a special revenue account onto general fund, trying to hit certain percentages, and we recognize that was important. So those two combined is that increased recommendation. The court clerk's office, we've got an increase there. If you recall, this board approved 10 new employees last fiscal year, but the funding, because of when that approval went through, was not for the full fiscal year. So a large portion of that, $154,000, is actually to fund those 10 new employees for a full 12 months for the fiscal year instead of the whatever it was last year, 9 months or 8 months. Other than that, that's pretty well the big, large items, but I would be happy to discuss any of them individually with you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
May I ask a question?
please.
Mr. Compton, and you may need to resource John as well, or PD, but I remember last year we funded 20 new DOs for the sheriff's office, plus I think it was a 3% increase in raises for all of the detention officers. I'm not sure those were ever implemented. Is that, can you give me some history on that and whether there's an adjustment for that in this year's budget from the sheriff, or whether we're going to not do that again?
Well, I might need Mr. Scuta to help on this a little bit. If memory serves correct, the detention officers that you had listed in your estimate of needs was 473. Is that correct? In that ballpark. So I don't know last year what the number of detention officers were at the time that you guys, approved the 20 increase. And if it was 453 and now we're funding 473, then it would be. But I do not recall those numbers. I don't believe there was ever a 3% increase given last fiscal year, and that is not part of our recommendation. It's an increase. There's no recommendation for an increase in an FTE slot for the sheriff's office or pay raises across the board.
Mr. Scuta?
I'd like to elaborate on that a little bit. Last year when we built our base budget, the base FTE was based on 660 employees for the sheriff's office as a whole. We did have an additional request in there to add an additional 20 detention officers, as well as 3% raise on top of that 660 base FTEs. In the manner in which kind of the budget was done last year for our office, those positions there was not additional funding given for those positions, to be hired, or additional funding for that 3% raise. Rather, it was money taken from other areas that were assumed to be used for that. So it required major cuts to other areas and other staffing levels to make that, to make those adjustments. So no, they were not done. And that was the position of the past sheriff, because those were not actually funded. It was more of a take from one pot to pay for another. And so, to answer your question, no, those two items were not done. And
I was under the impression we funded them, though.
No, sir.
Was there not an extra $2 million for a cushion in that funding, or that we funded at the bottom, as I remember?
I don't have those numbers in front of me
Yeah.
to have that conversation.
Can you share that?
Well, my recollection, and my memories is good, but anyway, my recollection is, John, I do concur that the sheriff last year had always contended we did not fund it. My recollection is that when we were doing the motion and when we were considering it here, that we thought we were funding it. So there became a difference of opinion there as to whether or not certainly we approved additional slots, and we thought in approving it, we also were providing the funding with it. But as I said then, and I know working with you and with the former sheriff, when you would sit down, your numbers, you were showing us where by your numbers we didn't fund it.
As I recall it, and I can even see the sheet, we funded it and the raises, and we actually added a $2 million cushion in case of emergency cushion. There was $2 million. I think I still have that sheet.
Well, and I think the relevance of that now is, are we also funding 20 VOs and raises that weren't implemented last year, again this year? Because it's now part of the base budget.
In Scooter's defense, though, I do believe that John probably did move funds from another area to...
And as I recall also, that was the contention from John, was that we have, if it is done the way that we thought that we were instructed it for to be done, then that he was going to basically not have enough money to do any of the other functions. And so he made then the management decision. And I think that's what led to the discussion that, well, you didn't fund it. Because if you think that you funded it by taking it from my other functions, then you didn't fund it, because I've still got to perform these other functions, i.e. patrol in the unincorporated area, as an example.
I also want to point out, in this year's budget process, we were, I believe, more transparent than we ever have been. As I pointed out a few seconds ago, that last year's base FTE numbers was based on 660. This year's base numbers for what we submit as part of our estimate of needs, not including the additional request for detention officers that we did place in there again, was 654. So it was a reduction of 6 overall.
For the entire department?
For the entire sheriff's office.
Not just the jail, but...
Correct. Whenever you add up all the FTEs that were included as part of the budget for all of our estimated needs, from general fund down to special rev and service fee, rather than 660, it was a total number of 654.
And it's your opinion, I guess, I gather from hearing the discussion this morning, that we still don't have final numbers from Farmer, and that will come in at some point, and we'll have to make some adjustments perhaps.
For this fiscal year, yes, Matt, I think that just like employee benefits, that's dependent upon utilization, so to speak.
Right.
And we were actually trending very well, in comparison to last fiscal year. I put a lot of that, in due to large part to the reduction of the population. With a lower population, you still have high-risk people, but you have less of them to possibly be high risk. So you slightly lose, there's not as big of a risk pool there. So I attribute that a little bit. We also didn't have nearly as many large single claims that we did last year. A month ago, the way we were trending was our overall off-site cost was going to be equivalent to that of the top 10 inmates from last fiscal year. And that spoke volumes to kind of where their trending was going. The pharmacy costs, from my recollection, not having the report in front of me, was the pharmacy costs for the most part are pretty in line with what we saw last year. That hasn't changed a whole lot. That again was just in due part to the population coming down, not having to pass as many meds out. But unfortunately, in the last month or two, we did have a large claim or two that was unexpected. But I'm hoping that as we move towards the end of June, that average, since it's based on utilization, will come down. And knock on wood, we don't have any other large claims, but if we could predict the future on those, I guess
That's knocking on wood.
Okay. We wouldn't be doing this. We'd be rich. We'd be able to predict the future. So we're closely monitoring that. And yes, I mean, to your statement, we don't know what that's going to be, but all indications are it's a lot less than what last fiscal year was, which was close to the $800,000 mark, over the 1.5.
So you're looking at a projected increase in your budget of $803,000.
Yeah, and the vast majority of that would be the $500,000 increase was roughly the medical base and the cap. There may be need to adjust that cap at some point, depending on how this year plays out. I don't know that with absolute certainty, because that was based on the estimates of the information we had at the time. And then also the inmate food increase. I was hopeful that our food would stay pretty stagnant, but with the ongoing temporary kitchen and the associated costs there, hopefully that project in the kitchen will be done here in the next couple months, and we won't necessarily need that. But what I would propose is, if for some reason we do look like we're trending short in inmate food, that rather than requesting a transfer from reserve in the next fiscal year, we could just slide that from one line item for food up to medical, just as a net, and then any left we would turn back in. I think we'll end up having a little bit that gets turned back in end of this fiscal year, which hasn't happened before that I can really recall. We're doing a lot better job of tracking. We're being a lot more transparent. I truly believe that over the last 6 to 12 months, and even more so in the last couple months, we're getting to a point that I like to consider somewhat of financial stability in the sheriff's office, and I think we're almost to that point. And we're getting all of our revenues and expenditures really in line with where they should be, with what revenues are there. And I think that's important. And as I voiced to the BET, and Cody and the rest of the members can attest to, I really felt like the budget that our office presented this year was probably more transparent than it's ever been, as far as how many people we have in different divisions, what those divisions cost, salaries and benefits wise. And that's just an indication moving forward of the transparency you can expect from me and the sheriff's office when it comes to our financials. And as I stand before you today, I'm a man of my word, and you can definitely expect transparency. And I think transparency this year posed a lot more questions as far as certain aspects of our office. I think we did a pretty good job of answering those questions, but as transparency is given, we should expect a lot more questions, more not to attack or try and go after us, so to speak, but more so as just a basic wanting to understand what's going on. We're a very complex machine. I'll never disagree with that. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of complexities as far as the funding and different avenues of funding go. But we're ready to be as transparent and open and honest. And this budget presentation this year was this first step in that, in the future.
And I've heard that, and I really appreciate it. I want you to know how much I appreciate that, Sheriff Taylor, that you've taken that step. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner, may I make
Yeah,
a
sure.
remark? Yesterday afternoon, Rick Warren and I spent the afternoon in the jail and just looking at the whole situation.
Excuse me, you were in the jail?
No.
I know.
We were observing the jail yesterday afternoon.
You didn't get
And we were there to look at their situation, and they are doing an outstanding job with, it's amazing what they're having to do with all of, using styrofoam, to feed people and, you know, the jail, the whole situation, and we all have great, trust in PD that he's gonna do a great job and move forward, and that he's taking, you know, full control of this, and we have a feeling that he'll do a great job in the future. So, I commend them on what they're doing. I do have a motion if we're allowed.
It's time for, Cody?
Can I, real quick, before you make a motion? There is one slight error on this particular document that I would like to state before a motion is made, if that is okay.
Sure.
On line 950, economic development, the recommendation was to keep the amount that is currently in that account rolled forward. In the calculation, it was accidentally double dipped for the amount that has been taken out of that account through this fiscal year. So the recommendation for that line should say 379,393 instead of the 363,796. So it would change that line, and then it would change the reserve line by that $15,000. So the reserve line would then read $2,742,395.
Clerk have that. Karen?
Yes, ma'am.
I move we approve this.
Have a motion.
I was gonna make a motion if that's. I move we accept the recommendation of BET with the following adjustments. Fund the sheriff at their current budget level. Fund the court clerk at an additional $353,389 for pay parity. Fund District 2 at an additional $99,987 for parking lot improvement. Increase the county clerk budget $250,000 for the Tyler Munis fee, and then put $100,000 in reserve.
So are you making that motion just for those items?
I made the motion of accepting all of that, accepting the BET recommendation with those adjustments.
With those changes.
Okay.
So the BET recommendations are dramatically changed.
Did you have a question?
Well, if we're gonna do that, I've got a few changes I'll recommend as well. I'm happy if we wanna break it out and start looking at it item by item, line item by item. But I think we could probably just adopt the BET recommendation, and if we need to make changes.
I would second his motion.
Sure.
You're seconding the county clerk's motion?
Yes.
No, the motion that he just made, the changes that he currently just made, I would second that.
Discussion?
Well, I'd like to go back and go over what they are then. I've got this handout, that lists the BET recommendations. So what changes would be made to the BET recommendations?
The changes would be to fund the current sheriff's budget at their current budget level.
In other words, none of the 800 and whatever it's on here is recommended? Zeroing that out totally?
At their current, yes, at current budget level. Fund the court clerk with an additional $353,389 for pay parity. Fund District 2 in an additional $99,987 for school parking lot improvements. Increase the $250,000 for the Tyler Munis fee, which remember we had asked for that, when I first joined this group in January, and then put the additional $100,000 into reserve.
I've got millions of questions, but I don't know how to articulate them. I thought the BET did an excellent job of, getting everybody's wishes known and perhaps even met. And so, I guess, making a motion with changes that are not on this paper, I don't know what to do. I'm lost, quite honestly.
Question?
No?
Uh,
Was there a second on it?
There's a second, but I was gonna ask you if you had others that you suggested. Before there was a vote maybe taken on this, do you care to elaborate what you might offer?
Yeah, every year, we end up having to fund our salaries from downtown out of our road funds, which I think is a bad practice. I'd rather that money go to the roads, which is where it's intended. But we have to supplement our salaries down here with the road funds. And that's been a practice in the past. We have a reserve balance that we're going to carry forward this year, and I would like to, if we're going to make changes to the recommendation of the BET, I'd like to include $85,596 so that I can fund my salaries here in the county without dipping into my road funds, because that money needs to be going on the roads.
I would rather see that as a separate motion. I'd rather deal with the motion that's on the floor right now without adding other stuff to it.
Yeah.
Strongly would.
I'm answering your question.
Yeah, I asked the question because I wanted to know where else we wanted to go with dissecting this.
Danny wanted me to notate that this recommendation was not a consensus recommendation, but it was a 6-2. So it was pretty substantial in favor from the BET. So,
Mr. Chairman, I call the question.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Aye.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
May I ask one question, please? What was the number for the court secretary?
What was the final vote?
Court clerk was,
I think it was 4,
353, 380.
One abstention.
2 no.
2 no. Oh.
353, 389.
Oh. The vote is 4 yes, 2 no, 1 abstention.
I'm gonna change my vote one more time. Is that right, Mr. Chairman?
All right, counsel?
I mean, if there's clarification that needs to be had.
Well, I think I understand it better.
She's cast 2 votes.
Vote no.
If there's
I'm gonna
confusion
vote
as to the
no.
vote,
I'm gonna vote no.
Okay. Without objection, let the record reflect a no vote from Ms. Johnson.
Thank you.
4-3.
Okay?
What was the final vote again?
4-3.
And does 4 constitute a
It's the
majority of
existing members, yes.
existing members? All right.
I'd like to, at this point, be sure and go on record as saying what we just did to the sheriff's department cannot stand. And the reason it cannot stand is because zeroing it out, we cannot stand, because he is going to pick up these additional costs that he's gonna have to pay as it results to the jail. And what we had tried to do last year is fully fund the jail, and we heard some $500,000 of this request from the sheriff's office today was totally for the jail. And with all due respect, gentlemen, ladies, gentlemen, I know we're gonna have September to try to address this, but I think we've taken an incredibly short-sighted view of Oklahoma County today. I've been here a long time, and I would have to say this is the most disappointing budget that I have seen here in my years. And I would like to say, everyone who sat on that and who deliberated on that BET did a magnificent job. You did a magnificent job. You led us to water, we didn't drink.
Sheriff?
I'd like to, maybe too little too late, but I'd like to comment on what just happened. Since the sheriff's office doesn't have a vote or a seat on the board, and the vote would have been 4-4, and it would have went down if I would have had a seat on the board. But I made each and every one of you a number of commitments, and we're filling those commitments, and we're moving as fast as we possibly can to get there. There has been savings every day, changes every day. I watch the BET board almost every meeting online, and I saw a group of professionals that care about the county. I saw negotiations, I saw give and take, I saw honesty, and they spent hundreds of hours for nothing. They spent a month and a half, really, for nothing. And they did an excellent job, and they care about the county, and they made the recommendation. I've sat here the last few years, and it seems like we never follow, when it comes to the sheriff's office, we never follow the BET's recommendation. The sheriff's office always loses money, and we're promised to get it back in a supplement in September, and it never seems to happen. I don't understand what just happened. We're doing everything possible to get to where you all, each and every one of us, want us to be, and you just devastated the sheriff's office. Thank you very much.
Any other further discussion?
Since we're gonna do this.
Yep, you wanna go? Sure.
In that case, Mr. Chair, if you'll recognize me, I will move to add $85,596 to the budget of District 3 so that we can fully fund our salaries. I've only got 3 employees down here, and we need those funds to, we have to end up supplementing our salaries each year out of our road funds, and I think it's more appropriate to spend those road funds on the roads as opposed to paying salaries. So I would move that change to the budget.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second.
Hey, what you're opting to do then is to move those additional dollars in and take it out of the reserve. I mean, it has to come from somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Out of the general fund. So, yeah, so that I can use the road funds for roads.
I understand that, but I mean, we're not voting on road funds, we're voting on general funds. So what you're opting to do is to pay this, which would be an addition, which would have to come out of the reserve.
That's right.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, can I piggyback off that for District 1?
Sure.
Okay.
You wanna make a number? I assume he has to accept a friendly amendment.
Are you talking about amending my motion or adding
No,
up?
I want to add District 1.
Well, I think you gotta take those separately then.
Oh, well.
Okay.
I think we need to vote on mine
All right.
to make yours.
Any other discussion? There's been a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right, now District 1.
District 1. Okay.
Everybody else voted aye?
Correct.
Well, what I'm thinking, I have road funds and general funds to work from too, and I just like, just as soon go to general fund for salaries rather than take it out of the highway cash money.
Do you have a number?
I don't have a number right now.
Cody, you wanna generate one for the motion?
Yeah, if we could pull up the estimate of needs that is linked.
Help me, Cody. Come on. No, you, it's absolutely bizarre.
Well, that's what I was I was looking at this number, but that may not, this is pure salary, and I don't know what that number is.
Okay.
Got my phone.
They're all gonna do this.
Yeah, we,
Can I change my no vote?
I-
If they all wanna take it out of the highway fund, I change it.
I got it.
It's too late.
this is all.
Huh? Yeah, but I mean, if I wanna change it on Mr. Ray Bond, can I do that or is it too late?
Council, on my last vote, I voted no. If I want to change that, is it too late?
I think you would have to make a motion to reconsider the item to.
Can I make a
Unless
motion?
there's some kind of confusion about the issue or the vote count, then if you're just wanting to change your vote, not involving some sort of confusion, then you would have to move to reconsider it.
I wasn't confused. I just was thinking of the wrong account that they were taking it out of. I had it backwards. It's coming out of the general fund, is that correct?
Right.
That's the way I understand it now. So based on that, my vote would have been yes. But if I need to make a motion, I'd be glad to.
We have a motion on the floor, I believe, with Commissioner Johnson, so as soon as we deal with this, we'll deal with that, if that's okay.
Okay, the chairman asked for a number, and that number is 132,834.
Is there a second?
What was yours, Ray?
Mine's 85,596. Okay. What does that cover? Hold on.
It covers salaries and,
That would be salary 100%.
But what was the number again?
132,834.
I second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, passes. Now, Court Clerk, you have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to reopen the vote on Mr. Ray Vaughn on taking the salaries off of the highway fund and putting it on general fund.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second to reopen the item, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now we'll hear your reconsideration of that item. Is that proper? You wanna recast your motion?
I will remove I will move again my motion.
And I'll second it.
For $85,596.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now it declares unanimously passed. All right, any other line item considerations?
Yes, if I might.
Sure.
Ask Cody a question. I'm the designated member of the planning commission, for the board. And I know that we're gonna have to redo the planning statement and all of we print a number of copies of that, but it's going to require a lot of, funding. Was that presented to the BET?
Are you talking about the master plan?
Yes,
The update to the master plan?
revision of the master plan.
Yes, it was. It was, and I think, is Tyler's in here, so he may be able to address this, but, my recollection was it's not something that's absolutely ready to go right now. So it's something that we are gonna track. Same thing with, the funding level for them at 0. We made that change last year because it appeared as if they'd be able to operate out of their, special funds, and they were able to this year, and their funds have, actually have been better. So it looks like they're gonna be in a good spot. My position, on BET, and I think most, are of the opinion that we need to track that on an absolute regular basis to make sure that we don't get into a situation, because we do want to fund them from general fund if it's needed, but the way it's tracked, it hasn't been needed.
Well, I understand that, but I think
Yeah.
it's anticipated that we will do it this year, this next fiscal year. Go ahead, Tyler.
The concern was, the $250,000 for the master plan, was they're gonna take a process to do. It wasn't, as far as salaries and operations, we were fine. This additional $250,000 from the general fund is for the, preparing the, master plan. And, that's, was pretty much a separate issue.
Let me, if I might enlighten that just a little bit, since we've got some new members to the budget board. And when I got here in 2007, we actually were implementing a new master plan at that point. It had not been redone for like 60 years prior to that time. And we spent the money to do the master plan for the first time in that length of time. And as you know, our population is growing rapidly, and different areas of the county are being populated more than ever before. And we understand that there is a need to redo the master plan. We've been doing pieces of it on and off since I've been serving on the planning commission. But to do a total rewrite of the master plan is going to be about a $250,000 price tag, and it's anticipated that we'll be ready to do that in FY18. So if we don't fund it today, which I'm not going to ask that we fund it today, but what I'm going to ask is that when we get it ready to go, that you all remember that I brought it up and said we're going to need this money this year, and I anticipate that we will have some reserve funds that we can apply to it when the time is right. So with that, I'll let it go. I do have another question, though.
Go ahead.
What about, with regard to the sheriff's budget, and you may need to answer this, PD or John, with the vote that was taken to basically leave you at to turn back the requested increase of
to fund him at the current year level.
Yeah, $803,000. What does that do to our courthouse security abilities, if anything? Because I know some of that is funded out of court fees.
Let me start off by saying I've been adding a few more deputies to the courthouse. I filled an opening to operate the jail that that helps a lot of people at the courthouse, from public defenders to everyone. I'm not sure what it'll do. It may force me back in a position where we have to keep cutting bodies and where we can't do the job.
John, did you say you'd added a person to operate the jail elevator? Yes. Okay, thank you. I knew that was an issue.
Based on the vote you all had, it's my understanding that what you've done is not fund the additional requests that the BET worked so hard, not just on ours, but on every single elected official's operation. And so, what is it going to do to us financially? It's going to cripple us.
Hang on.
Sorry. Apologize.
So, I spoke to you earlier about us getting to where I believe we were financially stable. Your vote just killed that.
Can I ask?
Sure.
John, and I apologize, and I understand this is an emotional situation, but the question was, what, if anything, will this do to our courthouse security?
The entire operation of the sheriff's office is going to have to be readdressed financially. I can't tell you what it's going to do to courthouse security.
John, if I can, on courthouse security, there is X number of dollars that you now receive for courthouse security through a particular, and I don't remember what is tied to the number of cases, but my understanding is that you're supplementing that almost up. Right now, for courthouse security, you're mandated to use that amount for courthouse security, but you're paying roughly twice as much out of your current budget for courthouse, 4 times as much. So if you take us back to what you're mandated to, then we can expect roughly 1/4 of what we got.
Right now in the courthouse, and thank you, Mr. Freeman, for bringing that up. Yes, I'm a little emotional. I put a lot into this. PD's put a lot into this. The BET's put a lot into this. This isn't just something I take personally. I think every member on the BET takes this personally for the time and effort we put into this process. And essentially what I'd take away from it is all the efforts we put into it were for nothing. Back to your courthouse security, we bring in approximately $450,000 roughly in courthouse security fees. It used to be around $220 to $230. I'm giving you round numbers because I don't have the exact ones in front of me. There used to be a $10 fee on criminal filings. Last year, the BOCC, I believe it was last year, maybe the year before in November, approved $10 on civil filings after the state legislature made an adjustment to that statute. So now we're bringing in, give or take, anywhere from $420,000 to $450,000. The salaries and benefits alone, just for these people that are currently assigned to the courthouse, are over $1.7 million. What's being funded by those fees is 1/4 of that. So if you want to make assumptions, be my guest on that, but the fees that get brought in are 1/4 of what that operation currently is.
Any other questions? Any other motions?
If I might.
Sure.
Mr. Chair. We have previously created the benefits office and moved that over to the BOCC. Those employees are not yet funded, and I don't know that that's addressed in this budget. I don't think it is. But if we're going to create that department and fund it with the employees that are anticipated, we would need to move $287,000 from the current county clerk's budget to fund those individuals. And if we're going to get this detailed in this budget, then perhaps we should go ahead and address that.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion having to do with that. I would motion that the employees be left where they are in their current offices and in their current budget for it to be as economical as possible, in that it will not cause any increase to the taxpayers, and nor will it cause any interruption of services, which there have been none whatsoever. And So that's my motion.
May I have a
Sure.
question? I think that's a great idea, and I think leaving them where they currently are located is acceptable to everybody. But as far as leaving them, are you saying leave them in your budget?
Yes,
Your
that's,
motion, as
yes.
opposed to moving them? Well, they're BOCC employees already. I mean, once we hire them, and we're at that stage, I think.
Okay,
So-
until they resign from my position, I think I'm not incorrect, until I've accepted their resignation, which I haven't received any resignations. I believe that we are still operating under the county clerk office, handling the benefits as always has been done, and, so as far as I understand it, we would just keep operating under the circumstances as we've been operating with no interruption in service.
That's true, but this budget is for next year, so it would start July 1st, which I would anticipate that they would be identified and hired in the new department by July 1st. And so I'm just saying that there's not a line item budget in the VOCC to pay those salaries. And if we went ahead and did it now, effective July 1st, then that would take care of that.
Again, my motion was to leave them with the county clerk's office under my budget and leaving them in the same offices under my auspices, as I think is the best opportunity for the taxpayers and the best situation, and there's no disruption of employees or benefits.
Well, the Board of County Commissioners has already moved them to a different office as far as under the BOCC. They've moved them out of your office to the BOCC. They're physically in your office, in their current offices. And my anticipation would be to leave them in that location, because I don't think it's a problem. But as far as funding for their salaries, they have been moved to the BOCC. And starting July 1, we will need to fund those individuals' salaries with this amount of money, $287,000 for next year.
Of course, we have his motion without a second so far, but are you saying that if you didn't get the funding for, are you suggesting that the funding come from the clerk's office or from the reserve fund to pay this new department?
It would be coming from the reserve as of July 1, from the BOCC, the general fund, not a reserve, the general fund.
So Cody, was it built into the clerk's fund to pay for these positions for the next fiscal year, or was it trimmed back?
No, it was not trimmed back. We had talked about that initially, but it was left in their budget. So what Commissioner Vaughn is contemplating is if benefits, which Board of County Commissioners has made a ruling on that they were creating the department. So whether, whoever it is will be under their auspices. So there will need to be funding there. Currently, this recommendation still leaves the salaries for the benefits folks that are currently working for the clerk's office. It's in their budget recommendation. So if
I may have misstated something. I'm talking about it would be in there until July 1st.
Correct. I'm talking about the 17-18. So if you move money if you move $287,000 from the 17-18 reserve that we've got listed here, if you moved it from there, then we would have benefits folks funded twice because they're funded in that budget, and then they would be funded in this budget. So I think that, I know that's not your intent. I'm trying to clarify. I think what Commissioner is saying is that the benefits, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're saying is that since benefits is going to move, then the money that's associated with those folks in this recommendation needs to move as well.
Correct. And that's said a great deal artfully, more artfully than I did it, so.
We have translating class in BET.
All right, well, he has a motion on the floor. Is there a second? The motion dies for lack of...
Second.
Okay. Now we got a second. So that is to clarify for the clerk, your motion is, so that we all know what we're voting on, to leave the funding in place
leave the funding in place and the employees in place where they are and where they've been.
I don't,
Well, we're dealing with the budget.
This board can't decide that. That was a Board of County Commissioners' decision, and only they
I
can
don't
refer.
understand what we're asking. What do we need?
Well, your motion, you're saying your motion is to leave the employees where they are under the county clerk's
Well, funding.
authority
Okay.
and the funding in the county clerk's budget. The employees have already been removed from the county clerk's office, so if,
The function.
yeah, and so your motion, would result in, I don't think this board could move those employees back to the county clerk's office. So I guess what your motion would result in is simply a increase in your budget by $287,000.
I'm not meaning to do that. I'm still confused as to when did my staff resign from their positions and go to work for the county commissioners? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't. We haven't hired them. We interviewed yesterday, right?
Right.
We don't even know who we're hiring because we posted internally, right? And, you know, we've had this question come up from a previous board, our last month's budget board, where it was later determined that we don't think that the vote passed to fund it. So with a BOCC can create all at once, but if it doesn't get the funding for it, what do you do then? Which is what I think you're trying to prompt, is to clarify getting the funding, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so what is the answer if we don't get the funding?
Well, this would provide the funding.
But if we don't, what happens?
Oh, if we don't get the funding,
Because we do have a vote on record that the BOCC sees those employees or positions, because we can't transfer employees, we have to transfer positions.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct. Yeah, it would result in a windfall, to the county clerk's office, $287,000.
And please understand, I'm not trying to do that whatsoever. I thought that we were all content with leaving the employees where they are, doing the job they've been doing under the county clerk's office. So I didn't know that there were continuing aspects moving on. I thought all of this had not moved on. So, I mean, my motion would still be to not fund to leave the funding with the county clerk's office. I mean, until the staff resigns from me, I'm not sure what I'm being asked to say.
Well, I think the confusion might be that this wouldn't take effect until July 1. So
Right.
it would be in your office on your payroll until July 1 if they are hired by the BOCC. And that process hasn't taken place yet.
Okay. I'm not trying to get the cart in front of the horse with dueling motions, but your suggestion would be, though, that it comes from the clerk's budget, not the reserve fund, or
Yes.
so that it's not dually funded?
Correct. That's what he said.
Okay. So, am I right to clarify the clerk's motion, counsel, the way I understand it, so that we know what we're voting on?
I'm going to admit that I'm confused because it appears that two motions have been made without a second on one. I understood Commissioner Vaughn to make a motion before Mr. Cooten to make a motion. So at this point, I can't give an opinion because I'm confused at this point.
Well, would you both just agree to withdraw your motions for clarity and then resubmit so that the DA is clear?
In this order?
Yeah.
She heard them?
Right. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
All right, so let the record reflect they've both withdrawn their motions. Now we can shoot the gun and decide who goes first.
Well,
go first.
Yeah, and then if it was the same order that she heard, I think would be appropriate. And my motion was to, effective July 1, move $287,000 from the county clerk's budget to the BOCC, or to the general fund, to fund the salaries of the employees in the benefits department that will be hired effective July 1.
Commissioner, that would be reflective in cost center 265 that's on your sheet. Employee Benefits Department.
Come on, second,
Okay.
Do I have the number right?
There's no number on there.
Yeah. Yeah, employees benefits, there's nothing there.
What you're doing is opting to move it in there.
Correct. Is the number 287, does that number ring a bell? Is that
Yes.
correct number? Okay. That would come from the county clerk's line item to the 265 Employee Benefits Department line.
No, we have discussion matters.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Johnson seconding the motion, is that correct?
yes.
Okay, so now we can have discussion.
Okay, and just so I'm clear, we're doing this to move the HR department, but we're leaving them where they are. We're just moving them into a different budget under the county commissioners.
Yes, it's my anticipation they would stay in the offices where they currently are. I think we've had that discussion.
Okay, I thought all of this was over because, so I apologize for not understanding. I thought all of this was not happening because it was not going to be funded, so I understand your motion now. I would call for a roll call vote.
Probably a good idea. All right, any other discussion? So that we're clear, we're talking about taking this money from the clerk's budget, which was in the BET under the clerk, right, and transferring it to a BOCC department. That's why we're plugging in the number, because it wasn't in there, correct? Okay. So, in favor of doing that, say aye, and call the...
Stein,
No.
Treasurer,
Aye.
District 2,
No.
District 3,
Aye.
District 1,
Aye.
Court Clerk,
No.
County Clerk,
No.
493.
Okay. Failed. Any other motions on this item? If not, item 58, adoption of the budget.
Can I make one comment real quick?
Sure.
At the beginning of the presentation, I mentioned that our recommendation was a line item recommendation. There's been a lot of changes, so, I mean, I don't know what you guys want to do, but if you are wanting to do the line item recommendation, then all the changes that were discussed would need to be delineated into its proper line item, whether that's M&O, capital, salaries, benefits, travel, so. That's my only comment. Other than, I would like to thank each and every one of you for your representative on BET. We did spend a lot of time and a lot of effort, and I really appreciate the discussion, the dialogue. I think what we discussed in there was very fruitful and very helpful, and I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. What? The name.
Is your contention that we can't adopt this right now because we don't have the numbers that's got to be all stated properly? Is that what you're suggesting?
No, I think we can do it. It's just a matter of if there's some clarification that needs to be made as to where those dollars need to be associated. If this board was inclined to take our recommendation of a line item approach, then I think that would need to be delineated. Otherwise, I mean, if you want to just adopt an overall number, then you wouldn't need to worry about it.
I think it's been delineated. I think that was a motion that the county clerk made, and I think the motion passed, so I don't think there's any confusion. In my mind, the bottom line hasn't changed. What's changed is the makeup of the lines.
Certainly, but like for I think the court clerk's office, it was $353,000. That $353,000 is all of that in salaries. I'm assuming a portion of that would be into the benefits line. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That would be $295,350 in salaries and $58,039 in benefits.
And those are the examples of what I was talking
And I
about.
understand that, but the departments whose budget changed today are gonna be incumbent upon them to give the new breakout to the clerk's office, so, the county clerk's office, so the budget can be put together. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, then if that's the case, is there a motion?
Motion to accept the budget as amended.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Roll call.
Okay,
This is to adopt the 17-18 budget, right?
that's correct.
Roll call, please.
Okay, so ordered.
Aye.
No, 1,000 times no.
Aye.
No.
No.
Aye. Yes.
Declare to have passed. All right, thank you for everybody for your time and comments. Any elected official comments? Assessor? Treasurer?
No.
District 3?
I believe, Mr. Graw mentioned yesterday that I'm gonna be starting a new, path medically, and, I appreciate all the comments that I've gotten in support. I anticipate a good outcome, and, it's just gonna be a bit of a journey here for the next couple of months as, we go through these treatments. Thank you for your well wishes and your prayers, and I will, ask that you continue those. Thank you.
Certainly. District 1?
Mr. Chairman, I was sitting here today, thinking the 10 years that I've been here. And this was probably, until a few minutes ago, the best budget board meeting attended. Because it seemed that, all of the work that our employees put in, to this thing, was fruitful. I am so sorry about office, because I know how hard you've been trying, and I know it's been difficult, because you've stepped a mile in a 20-foot stretch. I want to thank you so much, and those of our employees who participate in that process. I appreciate you so much. To the folks at the benefit office, this has been a turmoil for you. I don't wish that on anybody, not knowing where they're going to be, when they're going to be, and who they're going to be with. And I want that to be a matter of record. Thank you very much.
Court clerk?
No comment.
Court?
No comment.
All right, any citizens to be heard? Seeing none, any new business? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.